Uxbal is lying in bed. A voice of a girl can be heard asking him questions. He is talking with her about the ring on his hand. Uxbal explains the diamond on the ring is real. The girl would like to try it on, and Uxbal takes it off his hand and gives it to her. He tells her that she can keep the ring. The girl is looking at the ring and wondering if she should put it on another finger. As Uxbal is talking about his fears of being at the bottom of the sea, he is imagining he is in a forest covered in snow. A young man is telling him about what happens to owls when they perish. Uxbal opens his eyes. He is at the doctor's office. The doctor tells him that he is finished doing tests and he can get dressed. The doctor is curious to hear why Uxbal didn't come sooner to see a doctor. Uxbal doesn't have the answer. The doctor leaves the hospital room and the nurse walks in to take a blood sample. Uxbal is nervous. He asks the nurse a couple of times if the needle is new, and she assures him it is. She tries to take his blood, but he yells in pain and stops her. Uxbal asks her to get him another injection, and he inserts the injection. He is about to leave. The nurse asks him if he avoided eating anything for the last 8 hours like the doctor prescribed him. Uxbal gets even more nervous. He mumbles that no one mentioned anything about food to him, and that he won't allow anyone to stab a needle in him anymore. He walks outside and gets to the train station. He buys a ticket at the machine and walks into the train. He arrives at the church. There seems to be a funeral happening, and a lot of people are present. Uxbal finds the room with the deceased and sits on one of the chairs. There are 3 open coffins in the room. Uxbal sees a boy sitting across from him. He closes his eyes and recites verses in a silent voice. He gets up and walks towards one of the coffins and looks at the boy lying in the coffin. Uxbal walks outside of the room into the crowd. The boy's parents are there along with other people. It becomes clear there was a car accident. The family asks Uxbal if he saw something. He explains he saw one of the boys, and the mother starts crying and accusing him of fraud. Uxbal doesn't take the money and leaves the crowd. Uxbal arrives at Lily's place to pick up his daughter and son who are watching TV. Uxbal takes them home, and they have dinner together. The children are unhappy because they have fish for dinner every day. Uxbal asks them what they would like to eat, and the children explain they would like hamburgers, French fries, tortillas, and milkshakes. Uxbal pretends like he is making their favorite food, and the children are amused as he tells them about the ingredients he is putting in their plate. Uxbal tells his son Mateo to stop putting so much food in his mouth. The boy listens to him. A bit later, he gets restless and makes noise with his feet. Uxbal decides that it is time for Mateo to go to his room. Mateo gets sad, gets up, and slowly leaves the dining room. Later in the night, Uxbal wakes up and realizes Mateo is awake too. In a crying voice, Mateo explains he wet his bed. He promises to wash the bed sheet tomorrow. Uxbal hugs him, and they stand in silence for a while. A man is lying in the bed in his room. A phone rings, and he answers it and starts talking about the cremation of his father. Suddenly, the music in the other room gets louder. The man shouts to the person in the other room to turn the music down. The door opens and a woman walks in and starts dancing. The man is hopelessly trying to speak as the woman is jumping on the bed and drinking a glass of wine. The man finally ends the conversation. The woman is curious to hear whose cremation the man was talking about. She starts tickling him and giving him a Thai massage. The man finally explains the conversation was about his father. He kisses the woman, but she rejects him, saying she needs to leave. The man disregards what she says, and she slaps him. They get into a conflict, and the woman leaves. The man calls her crazy and goes back to bed to continue his interrupted sleep. Uxbal arrives at the street where some of his collaborators are selling purses and other merchandise. Uxbal reminds the guy they shouldn't be selling the items on this street, as it is illegal. Soon the police arrive and the group separates. One of the men asks Uxbal to go with him because he wants to show him something. Sometime later, a supervisor is yelling at one of the workers because she didn't make the purse right. The supervisor asks the worker if she would wear a purse like that. The worker remains silent. Uxbal is in the room with Hai and another man. They are arguing about the merchandise in another language. Uxbal is waiting for them to finish the conversation. He tells them that he can't continue selling the same merchandise. Hai gives him an envelope with money and tells him it's for the police. Uxbal asks him how much money is in the envelope, but Hai doesn't answer. He smiles at Uxbal and pats him on the shoulder. Hai and the other man are in the toilet. The man tells Hai that he loves him, and they start kissing. Uxbal is talking to the policeman on the street. The policeman is in the car. He tells Uxbal that the next time he won't be able to help them. Uxbal gives him the money in the envelope. He explains it is for the current 2 months. Sometime later, Uxbal counts the money and puts it in his pocket. Uxbal arrives home, and his wife Marambra is there preparing lunch for the kids. As soon as he enters the apartment, Uxbol tells her that she should have let Lily know that she would pick the kids up because Lily was worried. The kids are sitting at the table and eating. Uxbol notices the shower is on. Marambra explains his shirts were not ironed, and the vapor from the hot water will help iron them. Uxbol sits at the table with his kids and starts eating. Marambra starts talking about the anecdote about the bike, and Uxbol abruptly tells her to stop talking, put the legs off the table, and start eating. The girl asks her mom if she would like to stay a bit longer and watch a film later. Uxbol reminds them it is getting late. He thinks it is for the best if Marambra leaves. Marambra tells him that even if he has custody, he can't separate her from her kids. They start arguing, and she leaves the apartment. A few seconds later, Uxbol goes after her. He stops Marambra as she is about to enter the car. Her eyes are full of tears. Uxbol apologizes. Marambra tells him that she loves him, and they make up. Marambra says she is finally happy, and Uxbol reminds her of what happened the last time she felt like she was happy. Marambra's facial expression changes to sadness. Before Uxbol leaves, Marambra asks him for money. He gives her a few banknotes, and she asks for more because she talked to Tito and gave him a massage. He told her that Uxbol recently sold a grave. Uxbol explains it wasn't a grave, but a niche, and he gives her a few more banknotes and leaves. Uxbol is at the doctor's office. He is doing an MRI scan. After the examination, the doctor tells him about the results. He explains the cancer has spread to his liver. Uxbol doesn't know what to say. He wants to hear what will happen next. The doctor explains it depends on how his body will react to the chemotherapy. He proceeds to tell Uxbol he probably has a few months to live. Uxbol is on the street with his co-workers who are selling bags and other merchandise. The police vans suddenly appear around the corner, and the sellers start running away while the police are chasing them. The police catch Uxbol, put him on the floor, and go through his pockets. They take him to the police station. Uxbol makes a phone call to Marambra asking her to take the kids. He tells her everything will be okay. Uxbol is driving in the car with Tito, who teases him that he ended up in prison protecting the workers. Uxbol thanks him for paying the bail and promises to return the money. They talk about their father's niche. Tito gives him his father's documents and says the niche will soon be sold, and they can put the ashes with their mothers and save up the money. Uxbol asks Tito if he talked to Marambra about any of this, and Tito assures him he didn't. He explains he hasn't seen her in a long time. On his way home, Uxbol runs into the father of the deceased boy, who is lying in the coffin. The father asks him to take the money he didn't take earlier, and asks him to describe what he saw in his vision. Uxbol tells him he saw the boy, and he safely passed to the other side. He says the boy told him where he left his father's watch, by the leg of the bed. Uxbol reluctantly takes the money and leaves. Hai and his boyfriend are talking about the event with the police. Hai changed after what happened. They mention that Uxbol asked them to get a heater for the factory, and Hai leaves. He arrives at Marambra's place. She offers him some wine and assures him she stopped drinking. She opened the bottle of wine because of her friend Laura. Uxbol promises to take the kids the next day. Marambra talks about the dream their daughter Anna had, about an apartment getting filled with sand, and how they couldn't find their son Mateo. Uxbol thinks it is best if he leaves and returns the following day. He doesn't feel too well. Marambra stops him. She asks him to give her a second chance. She explains her attacks stopped months ago, and she has been using light therapy. She now has the light box in her room, and she thinks it is helping her. Marambra and Uxbol are standing close to each other. Marambra opens up emotionally and says her kids need their mother, and she needs Uxbol too. Uxbol thinks the kids can't wake up in the apartment with a different man each time. Marambra assures him she stopped seeing other men. She is certain she now changed. She hugs him, and they start kissing. Uxbol asks her to stop. He tells her he is still upset about the police. Marambra thinks she is getting too old, but he assures her that is not the case. They recall the time when they kissed in the closet. They both smile and hug. The workers are sleeping in the factory. They wake up and get into the van that takes them to the shop. Uxbol is at the construction site talking to one of the managers. The manager is skeptical about the Chinese workers Uxbol wants to employ. He says that most of them have a cold and have never worked on the construction. After a few attempts to persuade the manager, Uxbol gives up, suggests to the manager to find other employees, and starts walking away. The manager decides to compromise and shouts at Uxbol asking when he needs the money for the employees. They agree on a deadline of next week. Uxbol is taking the kids to Marambra's place. He explains they will be staying there for a few days. Marambra, Uxbol, and the kids sit at the table. Marambra is telling an anecdote about her friends. Marimbra bought ice cream, but there was no electricity in the apartment and the ice cream melted. She starts eating with her fingers and Uxbel tells her to stop, but she doesn't listen to him. Marimbra and Uxbel recall the first time they met and tell it to the kids. Uxbel is at home looking for money bills in various places and counting them. He goes to find the girlfriend of one of the workers the police caught. She is not happy to see Uxbel. She blames him for what happened. He says that they were not only selling the merchandise, but also and the police wouldn't allow it. She asks him what she is supposed to do now. She is alone with her baby. Uxbel gives her some money. Uxbel goes to CB, a woman he has known for a long time. She makes him a drink and adds extra healing ingredients. She already knows that he is sick with cancer and dying. She asks him about kids and Marimbra. B thinks that death is not the end, and the most important thing is to repent and pay one's debts in this life. Uxbel doesn't think that he is going to die yet, but B is certain that he is dying, and that he doesn't have much time left. She hugs him and finds 2 stones. She reminds him about the first time they met, and says that she is giving him these stones to give to the kids after he dies. 1 stone to each child. Uxbel is at the factory. He is arguing with Hai and the other guys about the money. He reminds them that he was the one who negotiated the salary for the workers, and he doesn't want them exploiting them. Hai thinks that a lot of other foreign workers would give everything to have a job. They get into a serious argument and Uxbel storms out of the factory. Hai follows him, and they argue for a while in the street. Finally, Hai gives him the envelope. Ige is sitting at the table and talking to Equim. She is holding her baby, Samuel. Equim reveals that he is going to get deported soon. He thinks that Ige should stay in the country. She doesn't want to stay without him, but he reminds her that there are no jobs left in Senegal. He advises her to continue studying and working in the chicken factory. Ige thinks that even if she worked there for a long time, she would never be able to buy a house. She thinks they don't belong there. Samuel thinks Uxbel can help them. Uxbel meets to talk with the policeman he met earlier. The policeman explains that he can't offer the kind of support he was offering earlier because he has a family to feed. The workers were selling and there is nothing he can do about that. He reminds Uxbel that he doesn't work in the government. Uxbel is having dinner with his family. Later, Uxbel is resting on the couch and showing Mateo and Ana pictures of their grandfather. He explains that his father had to leave Spain when he was 20 years old because he wasn't able to keep his mouth shut, and at the time, the ruler Franco sentenced to death those who would speak against the government. He moved to Mexico but perished shortly after from pneumonia. He also says that he never met his father. The kids think that it must have been weird growing up without a father. Uxbel decides it is getting late and they should go to sleep. Uxbel and his brother Tito are at the cemetery, waiting for the grave of their father to be dug out. The coffin is entombed and sealed with zinc. Sometime later, they are sitting in the office, talking to the guy about the cremation. The man tells them they will receive the ashes of their father. Uxbel would like to see the body of his father who he never met. They open the coffin and Uxbel sees his father for the first time. His body was preserved all these years in a coffin enclosed with zinc. Uxbel says his goodbyes. Ige and Uxbel are in Uxbel's apartment. He is showing her around the place and explains the rent has been paid for the next few months, and she is welcome to stay there. Suddenly, Uxbel starts feeling dizzy and sits on a piece of furniture. Ige is worried and asks him if he is feeling okay. A bit later, Uxbel is back home. Marimbra is upset because she argued with Mateo. Uxbel reminds her that Mateo is 7 years old and that she shouldn't have thrown the mattress through the window and then made the children pick it up and return it to the apartment. Marimbra answers that it was because the mattress was burned due to Mateo smoking. She tells him that Mateo accused her of being responsible for the 2 of them getting separated and that he was trying to open the refrigerator with wet feet. Marimbra talks about the travel plans she and the kids are looking forward to going to with Uxbel. Uxbel loses his temper and tells her that the stars she is seeing in the sky are not really, but it is her nervous system playing tricks with her, suggesting she is not feeling well again. The following morning, one of the Chinese supervisors enters the hall in the factory to wake up the workers as usual. He soon realizes there is a weird smell in the air, and the workers are not waking up. They suffocated during the night due to the gas in the heaters. The man breaks the windows and exits the room. Uxbel arrives at the scene, and the supervisors are upset and blame each other. Once Uxbel arrives, they tell him it is his fault too, because he was the one who got the heaters. They tell him what happened, and that initially, 2 of the Chinese migrant workers were alive, but now there is only 1 of them left alive. Uxbel rushes into the room and finds Lily, who is often helping out with the kids. Uxbel tries to wake her up, but she is unconscious. Hai tells him she is no longer alive. Uxbol takes her in his arms and puts her in the car to take her to the hospital. But before they leave, he realizes she is already deceased. Uxbol visits B again. He is completely upset by what happened. B comforts him and tells him what happened was an accident, and it wasn't his fault. Uxbol is haunted by the scene and feels really upset. Later, he arrives at the nightclub where he meets Tito, who is drinking and celebrating. Tito doesn't know what happened. He is surprised that none of the Chinese workers appeared at work. Uxbol tries to tell him, but Tito doesn't listen to him, and he buys him a drink. They get drunk and talk to the ladies sitting next to them. Tito soon leaves and Uxbol stays with one of them. She smiles at him and asks him questions, and he tells her that he is dying. She doesn't know what to answer after hearing that. Uxbol arrives home after a night at the nightclub, and he realizes Mateo is still at home. Marambra was supposed to take the kids to the snow. Uxbol wakes Mateo up, and Mateo explains Marambra decided to leave him at the apartment because he wasn't behaving well. Uxbol notices Mateo has bruises on his face and starts crying. Uxbol appears at Marambra's place to take the kids away back home. She doesn't want to let them go, and they get into a serious argument that escalates with physical. Uxbol takes the kids and they leave. They arrive at the apartment where Ige now lives with her child. Mateo and Anna are surprised that Ige and the baby live with them. Uxbol explains they don't have a house. The next morning, Uxbol wakes up late and Ige wishes him good morning and tells him she took the kids to the school. She offers to pick them up after school. Uxbol is upset that he overslept. The bodies of the Chinese migrant workers are washed ashore. Police appear at the factory and take the workers away. Uxbol is in the car with Hai. Hai tells him that Liwei betrayed them and that he thought Uxbol would betray them too. He moved the bodies way too close to the shore. Hai reminds Uxbol that he too is responsible for what happened. He says that the police took away his daughter and his family. He says he will make sure his part of the family stays silent about what happened. But he needs Uxbol to tell his people to remain quiet about what happened. Uxbol arrives at Tito's apartment looking for Marambra. She is lying in the other room. Uxbol threatens Tito to stay away from his wife and kids. He enters the room. Marambra is lying in the bed almost motionless. She says that she can hardly move and says that she feels sorry about leaving Mateo in the apartment. She starts crying. Uxbol asks her to forgive him. He thinks that they have both hurt each other in the past. He tells her that she will be fine. A bit later, Marambra is smoking a cigarette in silence. Ige picks up the kids after school. They slowly walk through the street, Mateo and Anna on one side, and Ige carrying the baby on the other side of the parked cars. Later at home, Uxbol is eating lunch with the kids. He tells them that Marambra is in a place where a lot of people are taking care of her, and she will get better soon. The kids ask if they can visit, and Uxbol tells them they can. Uxbol's health condition is getting worse and worse. He has injections that he is giving. During one of the moments of dizziness, Anna appears and asks him to tell her the truth. She wants to know what is happening. She knows that he is sick, but she doesn't want him to leave them. Uxbol says that he doesn't want to leave either. Later that night, Uxbol asks Ige to stay in the apartment and take care of the kids. She tells him that she would love to stay, but she doesn't think that she belongs there, and she will gather some money and return to her home country. Uxbol starts looking for something. He finds an envelope in the drawer and tells Ige to look inside. It is money for the kids. There is enough money there for at least a year. He begs her to stay with the kids. He doesn't have any other options. Ige is reluctant, but she accepts and takes the money. Ige takes the kids to school. Sometime later, she counts the money in the envelope one more time and puts it in the bag. She is at the station carrying a bag. Uxbol is in the toilet, not feeling well. He hears a noise in the apartment. He asks Ige if she returned, and she quietly confirms and goes to her room. Uxbol felt relieved that she decided to stay. He goes to his daughter's room and puts the family ring on his finger. Anna tells him that she can't sleep and to turn on the light. She asks him about the ring. Uxbol explains it is a ring that belonged to his ancestors, and now it belongs to her. Anna has never before seen a diamond ring. She wants to try it on. Uxbol tells her about the radio that he used to listen to when he was younger, playing the sound of the waves. Like in the beginning, Uxbol is in the forest talking to a young man, his deceased father. The landscape is covered with snow. The young man talks to him about the sounds of the waves and the wind, and what happens to owls after they die. Uxbol turns towards the other side, asking what is there. He starts walking towards the horizon, reunited with his father.